is to introduce an eminent speaker. He is going to talk about the role of HR in the era of fourth industrial revolution, the future of work, Work 4.0. He is a co-founder and a director of Fab Lanka Foundation, a social enterprise based in Colombo. He is also the managing director, CEO of Deal Consultancy, a research and management consultancy company based in Colombo. He teaches project management, strategic management, and e-business as a visiting lecturer for MBA programs at University of Colombo, University of Moratuwa, and Kothalavala Defence University in Sri Lanka. He has 20 years of experience in the industry, academia, research, and consultancy in 20 countries in Asia, Africa, and Europe. He is a BSc Engineering, graduated from University of Peradeniya. He has a master's from Lahore University of Management Sciences, Pakistan, and another master's in International Industries Management from Graduate School of Essen, University of Applied Science, Germany. He is also an alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School in Boston, USA, and a DAD scholar at Holborn University in Berlin, Germany. Currently, his research interest areas are ICT 4D, Industry 4.0, Work 4.0, Digital Fabrication, and SDGs. Let me warmly welcome to the stage Mr. Chaminda Hettiarachchi. Round of applause, please.
Thank you, Medita. Good morning and welcome to my session. First of all, let me congratulate and thank CIPM, because this is my first professional interaction with them, even though I have kind of as an outsider seen them grew from a normal average organization to now a global chartered institute during last 30 years. So congratulations and thanks for having me. Also, at the beginning, I want to kind of confess that I'm not a HR professional or HR expert. I actually have a limited experience as an operation manager a long time ago, so I work with people as a production manager, but actually those days we were like very anti-HR, so I have learned during years what HR should be. So basically my approach to HR is from strategy and also from project management point of view. However, I have been a lecturer for undergraduates in Sri Lankan University for HR, particularly with the introduction of former chairman, Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri is sitting here. So he kind of handed over one of his lectures, I think, in 2005. So just to remember that also. I'm still using your book, Professor. Okay, so on that kind of background, let me want to also kind of lay down my kind of rules. So I'm going to talk about Industry 4.0. Some of you already heard about it in detail, and also I'll talk about Work 4.0 and how they are going to affect HR. So you as HR professionals, you should tell me what are the implications. So this, whether this is going to be a challenge or this is going to be an opportunity, how you will take that. So I hope that we'll have time for discussion during the session and even maybe even after. Okay, before going to our main topic, I want to also talk about what we are doing at Fab Lanka. So this is a non-profit social enterprise. We started with the idea of introducing fourth industrial revolution technologies, including 3D printing to Sri Lanka. We started working from 2014-15, but now we are incorporated as a guaranteed limited. And very recently, in 2017, we started the first digital fabrication laboratory in Sri Lanka. It's called Fab Lab Mahakandura. So where we teach or train young people how to use 3D printing, particularly for new product development and for innovations. So this is the Fab Lab Mahakandura. This is actually in my hometown in Sri Lanka. So if you happen to travel along Nigambu Kurunegala Road, you are invited to visit and see what we are doing. We have been doing a lot of work in terms of 3D printing in Sri Lanka. So we built first 3D printer in Sri Lanka in 2014-15. We have been presenting and demonstrating starting from Prime Minister's task force to Arthur C. Clarke Center, different universities, schools, and also in the television media. At the moment, we are actually trying to educate young people, particularly in the rural areas, how to use fourth industrial revolution technologies so that they can forklift directly into fourth industrial developments beyond what is happening now. So we conduct some training and educational programs. Also now, some of these programs are conducted actually directly from USA and Germany, because we have our co-partners there, people who studied with me in the University of Peradeniya. Now some of them are working in companies like Boeing. So they teach from there online to Sri Lankan youth here. Okay, having said that, so let's start with the fourth industrial revolution, starting with this introductory video.
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
That was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
We need a different economic model that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, and that will be focused not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being.
We have energy technologies that can power our civilization, but how do we get it and implement it at the scale we need at a price that people around the world can afford?
If we're able to do something to transform cities, to make them more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The question of adding quality to quantity, it's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean energy.
Together we are fighting to preserve our fragile climate from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
The prediction of 5 million jobs lost by 2020 to technology is serious, but the main question is, how will we define work? How will we share the wealth?
How can you have a doctor that really knows a lot about data? How can you have a biologist that knows about medicine?
We have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts.
We really need new education or new training.
We're working with A World in Motion in FIRST Robotics, trying to encourage students from 3rd grade all the way up through the end of high school to pursue science, math, and different technologies.
It's this ability of digital technology to change outcomes, to truly empower people that can create a more equitable growth.
Fourth industrial revolution has the potential to make inequalities visible and to make them less acceptable in the future.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot. The cure will be possible if enough of the right people have the will to make it happen.
We're seeing this incredibly exciting convergence of genome editing, DNA sequencing. Governments have a very important role to play in enabling the safe and effective use of technologies.
We need to take responsibility at every level of society to adapt to these technological challenges, which are redefining what it means to be completely embedded in this world.
Even though we have everyday problems we have to solve, we have to find a way to lay the foundations for the innovations of tomorrow.
Okay, so you so some of kind of developments, challenges, and also opportunities. Let me, yeah. So, so welcome officially to fourth industrial revolution. So you already learned and heard about some of these developments, and also I'm sure there are a lot of experts here who are already familiar and doing work on Industry 4.0, but I just wanted to kind of lay foundation so that we have same definition or same understanding about this very diversified concept. So basically, we already discussed about the history. First industrial revolution started in England, for example, in 18th century, started with steam engine and first mechanization of production from cottage industries to in the industries like textiles. Now, the second industrial revolution, we all know, started in beginning of 20th century in the United States, particularly in industries like automobile. Now people actually still learn like something we say science or management with Frederick Taylor's ideas, and even HR, a lot of HR principles are based on second industrial revolution development. Now one difference is in the first industrial revolution, the steam was the main powering energy, whereas in the second industrial revolution, it's petroleum, gases, and electricity. Now, and also important thing here is that we created some global issues as a result of second industrial revolution, which we are facing even now, things like environment pollution, climate change, and even unplanned urbanization and work stress, for example. Now, third industrial revolution is the first digital revolution, which started in 70s and 60s, particularly with introduction of PLC to production. So now what we see is actually development and evolution of third industrial revolution. When we talk about digitalization in Sri Lanka, particularly we still talk about development on the internet, for example, mobile technology, even social media. Those are still a part of third industrial revolution. Now, fourth industrial revolution is very different because it's actually blurring the boundaries between digital, physical, and biological world. Now, I hear a lot of people say, I am a HR person, I am a marketing person. This is IT people's work. You will not be able to say this for any longer. As I think Suren mentioned those kind of things in very detail. So there will be no clear boundaries between physical, digital, and biological world. And the changes are happening in an exponential way, so that the scale, speed, and scope are very different to so-called ICT revolution. Now, still we have people all over the world who have never reached internet or never used mobile phone, but fourth industrial revolution technologies will reach everybody, everywhere on the planet. So that means this will force us to rethink what do you mean by leadership, political, corporate leadership, how to manage these disruptions already happening in many industries. And also the idea of capitalism, role of capitalism will be renegotiated. Of course, I think this idea of inequality also mentioned by Bob yesterday and Suren also today, that will be a big challenge we have to manage, particularly with digital haves and digital have-nots. Okay, there are a lot of such kind of technologies, but according to World Economic Forum, there are three main mega trends, including physical, digital, and particularly also in biological mega trends. I'm sure this audience is not very kind of experts on biological megatrend. That is also kind of happening. For example, bioprinting, that is a 3D printing technology with biology combined. So you can print organs. Now it's all early stage, but now maybe after 5 years you don't have to depend on a kidney donor. You can get your stem cell from your own body and then grow in a laboratory and then print a kidney for yourself. So that's going to change revolutionarily how we consider medicine and biology. There are some pioneering economies in the world driving fourth industrial revolution: United States, Germany, Japan, Korea, China, even India. Now, Industry 4.0, it's called in German, Industry 4.0. Do I pronounce it correctly? Yeah, so it started and the term coined in Germany, but now it's like a global discussion. There are different countries who are approaching fourth industrial revolution in a different way. They have different kind of frameworks, but it's basically the same concept. Now, I wanted to show this slide because no country, you can say, the leader of fourth industrial revolution. Different countries have different expertise and different weaknesses. Now, why we should care about industry revolution. I will not go into detail to explain all of them. Basically, as a small country, we have kind of lost particularly in the second industrial revolution. So we have disadvantage of the economies of scale. Now we know if you produce high volumes, you get the advantage of so-called economies of scale, the cost reduction in unit cost. So that is going to be a challenge in fourth industrial revolution technology. For example, in 3D printing, whether you produce 1 piece, 10 piece, 1,000 piece, or 1 million piece, unit cost will not be reduced based on scale. So the concept of economies of scope will be important. And therefore, we have advantage to compete with companies like China or India in manufacturing, in production, and in other industries, because we can build small plants or factories, maybe home base. And there are some other important reasons, but one thing I want to highlight, now we consider ourselves as a knowledge hub, smart island. So actually, for example, in Vision 2025, we want to have Industry 4.0 as a part of the discussion, but it's not there, unfortunately. But they have, of course, some of the such kind of terms or technologies. And we also have some success stories like companies like Virtusa or Mars Holding. They have shown global successes being in Sri Lanka without government support. So we can learn from their experience to start new companies to compete globally to get advantages of fourth industrial revolution. Now, last one is my favorite because it's not only going to change the way we work, way we do management, but this is also a way of looking at solutions to broader issues like national security, environmental challenges, energy security, and things like disaster management, and even development challenges a country like Sri Lanka is facing. However, there are some challenges. Since we keep on talking about challenges, I'm not going into details. The problem is, like any modernization process, we will see some kind of anti-lobbying. But there are some ways that we should look at this. For example, how we can learn from international best practices and benchmark them. Look at Industry 4.0 not as a private sector or government single issue, but global or multi-stakeholder approach, particularly with the consultation of different players. It's not a strategic plan or vision or anything, but there should be a different ecosystem kind of looking at addressing these issues. And now at the moment, we always try to compete each other, but fourth industrial revolution technology will be more on collaboration than competition, and also it's about open development. I think the next one is very important for organizations like CIPM. There will be a demand for new skill development. I think this is also discussed by Suren in detail. We have to develop new business model based on the openness and collaboration. International partnership building is very important now. CIPM also is doing a great job having these international speakers here. The point I want to highlight is next digital revolution is already here. So it's, we have to kind of go and look for it before revolution comes and find us. Okay, having said that, we'll go to the work 4.0. I want to show a small video again. Okay, so you saw the kind of main ideas behind Work 4.0. In fact, again, this is started in Germany. It's called Arbeit 4.0. It's now actually discussed mainly in European Union as the way of looking at future of work. So the idea is how to look for organizations and work till 2020 and beyond. And this is against Industry 4.0 development and also this digitalization. So there are main key contributors. Now I will mainly focus on what is done by German government because this is where I have expertise, but also European Union talk this as Work 4.0 and beyond, future of work is their terminology. World Bank actually has kind of allocated their 2019 World Development Report for changing work of nature. So it's a very comprehensive international analysis. World Economic Forum, of course, is the like one of most dominant, researcher or influencer in all fourth industrial revolution technology. They have future of work report. Now, interesting, ILO also is using this terminology. Actually, they call decent work. And they very recently launched a report on Sri Lanka, how Sri Lanka, even though scope is limited, it's a very good read. It talks about what are the capacities, what are challenges for work in facing fourth industrial revolution. I strongly recommend you to read it if you are interested in this development. Yeah. So again, Work 4.0 is a way of work with respect to different industrial revolutions. Now, fourth one is actually a way of handling and managing work in the era of fourth industrial revolution. I think Bob yesterday mentioned about 6 mega trends in work. So this is almost kind of same. I have only 4 because one mega trend is the topic I am talking about. So I will not go into again detail about these things. So you already learned and discussed about those drivers of mega trends of Work 4.0 and how it's affecting the workplace. Now, however, there are some challenges of accommodating and defining them as work. Particularly, the first one is now digital economy, so-called startups. There's a challenge for us to define what is work in those startups. Or, for example, how for example, we treat Uber driver, whether it's an employer or whether it's a volunteer or something like that. Okay, so therefore, the countries like particularly us, we have a challenge of defining work, workplace, and adapt our definitions on these markets. Big data, I think Suren was more kind of security oriented. He used the word secrecy. I'm a very public person, but this is a big challenge all over the world, particularly after this Cambridge Analytica scandal. So you have to take care of data, big data on your organization, particularly of your employers and the customers. It's actually a challenge. Now the thing about human-machine interaction, this is also discussed in the morning about how to work with cobots. So I'm going to also show a video on that. So you have to tell me what are your strategies of kind of handling that. So we have to talk about some upskilling and even de-skilling or unskilling of human skills. And there's a challenge of devaluation of our experience and also how to support individuals and monitor their behavior. Effective work condition in terms of both time and location is a challenge, and how you change structures of the organizations to adapt to these changes remain a challenge. So this is mainly by European context, German government's ideas of how to adapt policies to make Work 4.0 workable. But I as a Sri Lankan who kind of have experience in Germany, but also in Sri Lanka, I think all of them are actually very relevant to us, because this is not incremental change, but how you change the current work setting to adapt to future workplace. So we have to think about insurance not from unemployment, but more towards employment. Self-determined work, flexible working arrangements. I'm not saying you have to adapt them directly, but we have to think